Hey guys, what's going on? My name is Tylearn, and today we're going to be doing a brand new series, and I've actually done these series separately, but today I'm going to be combining both of them and basically making what if Kakashi adopted not only Naruto, but also Sasuke. Now, I know what you guys are thinking. It seems unlikely that Kakashi would adopt both of these people, but it actually kind of makes sense. You see, Naruto obviously does have a connection to Kakashi, that being since Kakashi was the student of Naruto's father, and Naruto being the only person that's left of Kakashi's past, or the last thing that's even connected to his past, he would decide to basically raise that child. And as for Sasuke, it's just kind of, obvious because Kakashi also has the Sharingan, and Sasuke is an Uchiha. And it just makes sense for Kakashi to raise someone like Sasuke, and we've already seen in the series how these two basically can have a really good chemistry. Now, imagine if Kakashi not only adopted Naruto, which, already has good reasons in itself, along with Sasuke. Now, obviously, Kakashi would adopt Naruto first, and then when Sasuke and the whole Uchiha massacre stuff goes down, then Kakashi would adopt Sasuke. And since Naruto and Sasuke are already aware of each other's existence, it's going to be interesting to see how both of them would react to each other being brothers now, essentially. Now, before we start this video, be sure to subscribe and hit the notification bell that we are notified update every time I upload, because the majority of my viewers aren't even subscribed. And not to mention, I'm trying to get 40K by 2021, and we are so close. So with that being said, ladies and gentlemen, let's get there, and I hope you guys do enjoy this series.
Hey, collecting rings like a Sonic. Bitches wanna party. My wrist getting heavy, so got 'em on a diet, yeah. Flex like I'm holding. Yo, bitch coming over. Yeah, we respect.
Okay, so like how I said in the intro, we start our story with Kakashi adopting Naruto at first, and then eventually adopting Sasuke. Obviously, I already said all this in the intro, and, if you guys are confused, then go back there. But I just wanted to clarify because a lot of people like to repeat themselves in my comment section, so I'm just clarifying here. Now, anyways, when Naruto and Sasuke are both revealed to be, kind of brothers now, from here on out, it would be a little awkward at first. It would obviously need some adjusting, and it would get to the point to where Kakashi would, explain to Sasuke and Naruto about his past and basically where he's from, and says how they're not the only ones who had to, cope without a family. Although Kakashi did have a dad originally, he did kill himself. Kakashi is not going to be like his father in this timeline, and he's going to make sure Naruto and Sasuke are raised right. And you can consider Kakashi a young dad at this point because he's not really an adult, and he's now reaching, like 18 or 19 around this time, I believe. He was still on the Anbu at this point, so yeah, he is pretty young. Though people wouldn't like Naruto, they wouldn't really hate him as much given the fact that he is being raised by an elite ninja. Not to mention, someone like Sasuke would be giving Naruto comfort along with Kakashi, his dad himself. So Naruto isn't really going to be bummed out or anything like that. However, he still wants to be a strong ninja and prove to everyone that does hate him that he can be a powerful ninja and basically be useful to the village. And this leads into Naruto's motivation in becoming Hokage, while Sasuke would be having a completely different motivation. Sasuke would obviously just only want revenge against Itachi for what he's done and rebuild the Uchiha clan. And Naruto and Sasuke would both share about their motivations and their goals, and Naruto promises that he'll help Sasuke the best way he can to basically help Sasuke get to that level, and Sasuke would then say vice versa to Naruto and help him get to, becoming Hokage. Both brothers would bond from this experience, and they would help out each other from here on out with their goals. With that being said, Sasuke and Naruto would be constantly training, with Naruto being held back due to Kakashi mainly wanting to focus on Naruto's strength. And this would then lead into Sasuke and Naruto, honestly, by the time they graduate the academy, already have discovered their nature affinity and are learning new ways to basically, use jutsu. More so Naruto than Sasuke, because at this point Kid Sasuke could already kind of pull off the fireball jutsu. So I'll just say with more training, Sasuke is able to do it, alongside with Naruto, who's learning about his wind nature and trying to come up with a jutsu himself. This would then lead into Naruto learning about the wind style Gale Palm, which basically is just a huge AoE wind blast. And this would then lead into Mizuki trying to manipulate Naruto, but this doesn't work due to him not being stupid, and what would rather happen is Naruto just telling him to, get lost. Mizuki decides to bug off, and if he does try and steal the scroll, well, he'll just get bobbed by some Jonin and maybe Hiruzen. Like, it doesn't really matter. Mizuki's gonna get bodied, And Naruto here wouldn't learn the Shadow Clone Jutsu from the scroll, but he would learn, the Shadow Clone Jutsu from Kakashi, since, I mean, come on, this is Naruto's main way of combat, and this is a way to introduce this style of combat to Naruto. And I think by this point, Naruto and Sasuke would already learn about the water and tree walking chakra exercises, given the fact that they already are aware of their nature affinity. And by the time they already graduate the academy, Naruto and Sasuke would already be around their post-Land of Waves counterpart, or pre-Chunin exams counterpart. So already around that Jonin realm of power. Now, this would then lead into them meeting their Jonin Proctor, and what do you guess? Their own father is their Jonin Proctor. Oh, and by the way, Naruto isn't annoying or a brat in this timeline, not to mention he's cool with Sasuke, so I think Sakura would be cool with Naruto and obviously crushing on Sasuke still. So Team 7's introductions are still the same, along with the preparation of the bell test, and when the bell test starts, which we'll just skip to there because nothing else really changes, we see when the bell test begins, Naruto and Sasuke are both wanting the smoke with Kakashi. Like, they both want to do really impressive against him because this is their own father. Not to mention they might know how he fights, given the fact that, he's been training with them for so long. Naruto and Sasuke just assume that maybe, the way that Kakashi trains them is the way how he fights, and when they originally try to rush at him in hand-to-hand and try to best him, this is clearly shown to be not the case, and Kakashi completely washes Sasuke and Naruto in hand-to-hand. Naruto and Sasuke manage to recover and back away from Kakashi, trying to form another plan, and this would lead into Sasuke telling Naruto to take his lead. At that point, Sasuke would then rush in at Kakashi with Naruto following right behind him, and Sasuke would immediately get washed. However, Naruto would summon a bunch of Shadow Clones to try and overwhelm Kakashi this time. However, Kakashi would get out the way in time and just, dodge all the clones. As Kakashi began to dodge, he would see the Sasuke that he just recently kicked away turn into a substitution log. At that point, this would surprise Kakashi, leading into Sasuke blindsiding Kakashi, and basically attacking from behind and trying to steal the bells. But obviously this doesn't work, and Kakashi barely manages to dodge and kick away Sasuke once again, this time hitting the real Sasuke. But as that was going down, Naruto had a couple of Shadow Clones helping him make a triple wind style Gale Palm, but they're all combining it into one powerful Gale Palm. As this is happening, Sasuke would recover and rush over to Naruto, where he would then cast the hand signs for the Fireball Jutsu. Kakashi, noticing Naruto and Sasuke together performing a fire and wind jutsu, which both normally don't mix and just make an even bigger fire jutsu, would basically come to the conclusion that they're just gonna try and combo Kakashi, which won't work. Kakashi would make an earth-style mud wall jutsu, hoping that he can actually block the wind-enhanced fireball. Little does he know that this is not only a wind-enhanced fire jutsu, but a fire jutsu with 3 wind-style jutsus enhancing it. So Kakashi is really underestimating the power of this attack and the potency of it, which would then lead into the wind-enhanced fire technique, basically burning through the earth-style mud wall and nearly burning Kakashi, but luckily Kakashi moves out of the way. After the fire jutsu pushes through the earth-style mud wall, the Shadow Clones of Naruto would then propel not only Naruto but also Sasuke with the wind-style Gale Palm over to Kakashi, that way they can beam over to him. With them beaming over, Kakashi would be surprised, and both Naruto and Sasuke would already meet by Kakashi, with Sasuke putting his hand out hoping to touch the bells, but Kakashi would then jump up. However, as this is happening, Naruto would then make a Shadow Clone, which would basically throw Naruto to Kakashi in the air, leaving Kakashi open for Naruto to grab the bells. And just in the nick of time, Naruto grabs it and actually passes the bell test. Kakashi was surprised that his 2 boys managed to actually beat him in this fight, and he's proud of it. Though they have a lot to do because they completely secluded one of their team members, that being Sakura. Kakashi would then proceed to try and teach Naruto and Sasuke and Sakura about teamwork with each other, and Naruto and Sasuke would already be aware of teamwork, and that's why they're basically able to work together so well, but they need to apply this teamwork to also Sakura, not just amongst themselves. And so for the next 1 month, I think Kakashi, Naruto, and Sasuke would all just focus on training each other, with Naruto and Sasuke mainly training with Sakura and learning about teamwork, while Kakashi would not only teach Sakura about chakra control, but trying to, get her up to speed, so that way Naruto, Sasuke, and Sakura can proceed on with their training. And it would take like a week or two, maybe 3 weeks, but Sakura would catch up, and this would then lead into all of them basically just progressing in training. Now, Sakura could potentially learn her chakra nature due to Naruto and Sasuke learning this with Kakashi. However, I'll let you guys decide that. And if that's the case, what should be Sakura's nature? Anyways, this would then lead into the Land of Waves arc, where they would encounter the Demon Brothers, and Naruto wouldn't be, paralyzed in fear or anything like that, but rather Naruto and Sasuke would both react at the same speed and take out each individual brother, with Sasuke slamming the brother on the left side and Naruto slamming the brother on the right side. We basically get this moment of them working together and, being brothers and synchronizing with each other, rather than Naruto's, kunai poison speech. Now, as for Zabuza coming in, I would say the first half of the fight is pretty much the same, with Kakashi getting subdued by the water prison and Naruto and Sasuke needing to work together. However, Naruto and Sasuke would both pretty much have a similar plan, if not the plan going a lot more successful, considering the fact that Naruto has wind style, so he could basically enhance the Demon Wind Shuriken with a Gale Palm, which could actually disarm Zabuza literally by cutting his arm in half, which not only frees Kakashi, but also damages Zabuza greatly. You could have Kakashi use the last bit of chakra he has left to actually finish Zabuza off, but in doing so, Kakashi himself would also KO, leading into them heading over to Tsunade's house, while Haku would see Zabuza's dead body, which would either make him think that, okay, Gato must have done this, and so he basically goes off and kills Gato's men, and then leaves the Mist Village, or just leaves the Mist Village. But for the sake of the story, I'm going to say that it is more likely to say that Haku would assume that this is Gato's doing, considering the fact that Gato didn't treat him right in the first place. And so with this, Haku arrives at Gato's base, killing Gato and every single one of his men, meaning no Gato men are going to be heading over to Tsunade's house. And when Team 7 is ready to go out, when Kakashi recovers, they would watch Tsunade build the bridge, and the bridge would be called the Great Naruto Bridge still, since, I don't know, maybe you can just have Tsunade and Naruto have that moment, not to mention Naruto was inspiring his nephew. And the Land of Waves arc would conclude with some time passing before, the whole Gaara introduction and the Chunin exams being introduced. However, beforehand, I'm going to say Naruto and Sasuke would be doing a lot of heavy training. Due to them almost getting embarrassed by Zabuza, it is best to assure themselves that they can, get a lot more powerful and basically make themselves feel better. With this, I think Sasuke during this time would just try to be determined and basically push himself to the limit, because he knows he needs to beat Itachi. And one day in a sparring match, basically Sasuke is revealing this to Naruto, while Naruto would reveal his determination as well, and both of them would get their own power-up, with Sasuke unlocking his Sharingan, and Naruto awakening some of Kurama's chakra. Kakashi, who is watching the match, would be surprised at both of them unlocking and awakening these new powers. However, Naruto would seem a lot more, less stable than Sasuke, and would seem like he's about to get really violent, and before he does so, Kakashi would intervene and basically knock Naruto out. And as for Sasuke, once his eyes revert back to normal, he would collapse due to chakra exertion. After this, Naruto and Sasuke would both be knocked out, and once they awake, Kakashi would recap to them what had happened, and Kakashi would tell them that they need to get a grasp of their powers. But luckily, Kakashi is here to help, and not only that, but another person will be training alongside them, which would then be revealed to be Sakura. And before the Chunin exams, I think, would start, or even before they even meet the Sand Trio, I'm going to say Sakura would have a jutsu and a nature affinity, which again is going to be up to you guys. So tell me, what is going to be Sakura's nature affinity, and tell me what ability should she get. I'll probably think of an ability if I'm not liking what I see in the comments, but I have to pick an affinity that the majority of you guys want. So you guys can, decide amongst yourselves, and I'll just see what's the most popular comment or the most liked. With that being said, I'm just going to say here that the Sand Trio introduction is the same, with Gaara having interest in not only Sasuke but also Naruto in this timeline, since they're both brothers. And the Chunin exams trial that, Kakashi would put them through, they would pass, and they would then be ready to check in for the Chunin exams, where they would then be stopped by Rock Lee, who would then stop them trying to challenge Sasuke. Naruto, not liking this, considering the fact that Sasuke is his brother and Rock Lee's trying to attack him, would try and, fight Rock Lee, but Sasuke would stop Naruto, saying that he got this. and he's been waiting to try and, try out this new ability on someone like Rock Lee. And we would then be revealed that the Sasuke that was training with Naruto isn't even the same Sasuke that is here today, where we see Sasuke with not only one Tomo, but a second one. Sasuke versus Rock Lee happens with Sasuke getting pummeled at first. When Naruto runs in, he shoots a wind-style Gale Palm on the ground, taking Rock Lee by surprise, since he would expect him to actually shoot him directly, and would send him flying. But Rock Lee would immediately recover, and he would be unaffected from the attack. Rock Lee would then proceed to rush at Naruto and completely outscale and blitz him, and this would then lead into Sasuke intervening and trying to get the jump on Rock Lee, but Rock Lee would then kick him up in the air, cast the Dancing Leaf Shadow, and would get ready to use the primary Lotus before Might Guy intervenes and allows Team 7 to check in. So Sasuke really got lucky here. And this gives Sasuke and Naruto more motivation to basically, overcome the Chunin exams and beat up all these people that they want to beat up. For example, for Naruto, like Kankuro and Gaara, and for Sasuke, it would be like Gaara and Rock Lee. Not to mention Naruto and Sasuke want to overcome each other. So then this leads into the first part of the Chunin exams, which is the written exam, which I'm just going to say that everything is pretty much the same here. I don't think Naruto and Sasuke being adopted by Kakashi and being brothers really changes any of this. Maybe Naruto can copy Sasuke's answers instead of Hinata's, though I want Hinata and Naruto's chemistry to stir up in this timeline. Anywho, Naruto would pass the first exam along with everyone else who passed in canon, and we would move on to the Forest of Death, specifically when Orochimaru arrives, because that's when changes start to occur. Now, when Orochimaru arrives and tries to combat Team 7, Team 7 are actually willing to work together and not fight Orochimaru separately. And with this, I'm going to basically reveal Sakura's style, which you guys actually chose on the community tab to be water. So she's going to be using water style. She has 2 water jutsus, and the main jutsu she uses is the water pellet jutsu, which is basically just a water bullet with the shape of a fist. Her second jutsu is basically just water shield, which is just a big shield that she can block attacks with. However, with this, she can use the water pellet jutsu in conjunction with Sasuke's fireball, which would make steam, which would basically blind Orochimaru and he's not able to see where they are, allowing Naruto to blindside him with a wind-style Gale Palm, in conjunction with Sasuke's Phoenix Flower Jutsu, and Sakura shooting a water pellet jutsu at Orochimaru directly. And because Orochimaru is already getting off-guarded and basically getting overwhelmed by a bunch of attacks, he would get tagged by all of these attacks and basically take the full power of these attacks. So Team 7 working together actually allows them to take on Orochimaru pretty comfortably. However, Orochimaru would reveal that he is actually completely fine, and the fight is just about to get started. This would then lead into him using the snake to try and eat Naruto, but Naruto would just use the shadow clones to explode it, while Sakura and Sasuke would be fending off against him. And this would then lead into Orochimaru basically sending Sakura flying, and essentially damaging her heavily, which would enrage Sasuke, revealing that Sasuke does, care about Sakura, even though he doesn't really have an interest for her at the moment. However, he still thinks of her as a comrade. Naruto would just be witnessing all of this happening, and he would essentially have Kurama be unleashed after witnessing Sakura. He would already have it unleashed since, in the snake fight in canon, he basically did that. But I'm going to say here he awakens Kurama when he sees Sakura go down, while Sasuke would awaken his Sharingan. The two brothers would then drive together and work together and basically take on Orochimaru. Orochimaru would try and suppress the Nine Tails, but when he tries to do that, Sasuke would intervene and kick him in the face, while Naruto would punch him in the stomach. And if Orochimaru tried to basically bite Sasuke in the neck with the curse mark, Naruto would chokeslam him before he could think, and Sasuke would just, stomp on him. The two brothers are in complete synchronization, and they are unbeatable when working together and enraged. Now, with Naruto being fueled up by Kurama and Sasuke being fueled up with that Uchiha rage, basically both of their rages are combining onto Orochimaru, and Orochimaru is facing the full impact of both of them. Naruto and Sasuke would be overwhelming Orochimaru, and Orochimaru would then be forced to retreat, and this is when Naruto and Sasuke would try and recover their energy and make sure Sakura is okay. However, Orochimaru would then come back, revealing that he actually wanted to, let their guard down to surprise attack him, as now they're going to be recovering and be weaker than before. Naruto would try to intervene, but Orochimaru would slap him away, enraging Sasuke, and Sasuke would then combat Orochimaru for a little bit until the rage would then, slowly burn out from Sasuke, and Orochimaru would finally get the bite of the curse mark seal off, basically biting Sasuke. However, he didn't get to suppress the Nine Tails. He would then retreat, and Sasuke would then collapse due to the curse mark seal being strained on him, and now the only person who would be awake is Sakura, who would just wake up after Orochimaru leaves. When Dosu's squad arrives onto Sakura, Sakura would hold her own a lot better, with Rock Lee aiding her, of course. However, he would get downed by Dosu, and when Sakura cuts her hair off, she would use the water pellet jutsu to off-guard not only Kin but also Saku. And she even manages to water shield Dosu's sound blast away, which would shock Dosu considering the fact that she was able to react to pure sound. Sakura may not be as strong as Naruto or Sasuke, but she is still a powerful ninja in her own right. Sakura would knock out Kin and would damage Zaku heavily, and Dosu would get the jump on her. However, when Sasuke is awake, he would then, use the curse mark stage 1 to his advantage and break Dosu's arm rather than Zaku's. He would throw Dosu at Zaku, and he would try and go even further, but Sakura would stop him in his tracks, and he would then revert back into base form, and Team Dosu would then retreat for their lives. And this would then lead into the third part of the Force of Death, which is the Kabuto portion, and I'll just say that's pretty similar. And Naruto would be recapped about what had happened with Sakura, and Sakura would tell him about this weird power-up that Sasuke went through. Naruto and Sasuke would talk about it after the Force of Death and before the third round of the Chunin exams. And Sasuke would tell Naruto that he has no idea what this is, and hopefully he can put a stop to it. Now, the third round of the Chunin exams is kind of similar to in canon, although there are two differences in, two different matches. One difference in one match is Sakura versus Ino. Sakura is literally the same, but she has more versatility and has water jutsu, so I think she would just use her range to beat Ino. And as for Naruto versus Kiba, which is the other change, Naruto is a lot more powerful, so he would just kind of beat him without using a fart. And when we get into the 1 month gap, I'm going to say here at first that Naruto, Sakura, and Sasuke would train under Kakashi, with Kakashi mainly focusing on Sasuke, but would help Sakura and Naruto out a little bit. For example, Naruto would be trying to figure out a different jutsu he can make with his wind style, and Kakashi would tell Naruto to maybe use his shadow clones and try to think of what he could come up with. She would try and evolve her water style, but then decide to focus on genjutsu, which she would then, figure out that she's actually kind of good at, but then she would then drop training with Team 7 and train with Lady Kurenai, where she would then increase her genjutsu abilities and actually is able to use genjutsu in battle to confuse her opponents, to get the jump on them and using her full power on the opponent. And as this goes on, Naruto would ditch training with Sasuke and Kakashi because clearly he's not getting as much out of the training as Sasuke is, and so he needs to find a new form of training. This is where he would then encounter Jiraiya. What a coincidence. And basically he would then train under Jiraiya, learning about, Kurama and releasing more of Kurama's chakra and using that to his advantage, along with learning about summoning. And Naruto would ask questions about the elemental natures and about how he can, make a new wind style jutsu. I think Jiraiya would help Naruto basically focus on getting the Rasengan because he knows who he is. I think Jiraiya would try and lead Naruto into the right direction and basically help him make a unironic beta version of the Rasengan. He would basically tell Naruto to use his shadow clones to basically compress his wind style Gale Palm into one singular sphere, allowing him to basically devastate his opponents with a close range jutsu. And you guys are obviously going to see how this is going to come into play later on. Now, for this round of the Chunin exams, I'm going to be randomizing the matches a little bit with Shino and Shikamaru fighting and Sakura and Temari fighting. Now, with this, I'm going to say Naruto versus Neji is still going to be first, obviously, with Naruto coming out on top, but for different reasons. I think he would be using his new Winjutsu along with him using some of Kurama's chakra to basically not only get the edge against Neji, but off guard him and hit him with a devastating, basically compressed Gale Palm. We'll just call it the compressed Gale Palm jutsu, whatever. And this jutsu would KO Neji rather than some cheap surprise uppercut that would give Naruto the W, but it doesn't really feel earned. But now it kind of does feel earned. The only other matches I'm going to be covering are Shino and Shikamaru's match alongside Temari and Sakura's match. First, I'll go over Temari and Sakura. Now, for this match, I think Sakura would be trying to play out with range, but Temari can't really be beaten in range, and I think Temari would kind of overwhelm Sakura. However, Sakura would show a lot of determination and fighting spirit, and get a good hit on Temari, unlike Tenten. Maybe Sakura off-guarding her with a genjutsu and hitting her with a water pellet on contact, point blank, but Temari would just tank it and then rely on her best Wenjutsu to overwhelm Sakura. She did good though, and as for Shino versus Shikamaru, I think they're both really intelligent and they would try and play out in distance. However, Shikamaru has a limit whereas Shino has a ton of range, so I think Shino would just kind of overwhelm Shikamaru, and it's kind of a bad matchup for him. If you want to argue Shikamaru might be faster and might just basically, call a draw, then whatever, I don't care. But regardless, this doesn't really matter as we would then get Sasuke versus Gaara, which would then initiate the Konoha Crush attack. Now, this would then lead into Gaara running out and Sasuke chasing after Gaara and Naruto chasing after Sasuke. Shino and Shikamaru would team up and actually take on Kankuro, with Shino not getting poisoned by Kankuro thanks to Shikamaru looking out for him, and Shikamaru holding him down while Shino would finish him off. Sakura would also be in the mix by also pursuing after Naruto and Sasuke, and Sasuke and Gaara would hash it out until Naruto would then arrive. Sakura would arrive as well, but when Gaara tries to throw an attack on Sasuke while he's basically knocked out because of the curse mark straining him, Sakura would react to this Gaara and block it with a water shield. However, Sakura would reveal that it took a lot of her energy, if not all of her energy, just to take that one attack, and she would then collapse due to exhaustion, leaving Naruto being the only one who could take out Gaara. Naruto would try and use Kurama's chakra to overwhelm Gaara with the Uzumaki 2K barrage, along with using the compressed Gale Palm, which would then force Gaara into using his Shukaku form. Naruto would then summon Gamabunta as a last resort. Now, due to him summoning Gamabunta plus using Kurama's chakra, he can't really use the compressed Gale Palm. However, he tries something different. He would use the last of his chakra to summon a Shadow Clone, and basically what he did with the compressed Gale Palm, he would do with just regular chakra, and the Nine-Tails chakra, of course. With this, Naruto would start accidentally forming kind of a weird blue sphere in his hand, and he would then rush at Gaara with this attack, and he doesn't know what to call it yet, so he'll just rush at him with it. This is a very bootleg version of the Rasengan, and it's a really failed version. However, Naruto has enough chakra just to make this, and it's probably just like a really small version. However, it's enough to basically knock out Gaara. And if you want to say that's not enough, then for good measure, Naruto would just hit him with the headbutt regardless, Takano Jutsu, and Gaara would then, become a good guy, just like in canon, and he would be defeated just like in canon. Sasuke would feel like he got bested and needed saving, which would not really be a good feeling on his part, considering the fact that he's been training for so long, but whatever. He would be recovering at the hospital, and this would then lead into them, mourning over Hiruzen's death, and Jiraiya and Naruto going out to go and find Tsunade. However, right before they leave, Sakura would interrupt them and ask if she can come along, as, she wants to be included in something and wants to basically grow stronger, because she felt kind of useless in the Chunin exams and wants to grow from it. Jiraiya wouldn't mind this, and Naruto would then proceed to ask Jiraiya as, Naruto, Sakura, and them head out, about what this blue ball jutsu could be. And Jiraiya would, after Naruto describes it, would come to the conclusion that Naruto accidentally discovered the legendary jutsu Rasengan. Okay, so Sakura and Naruto would be hanging out together a lot and training during this time when, searching for Tsunade. And with this, I think Jiraiya would try and teach them about the Rasengan, because Naruto did accidentally discover it, not to mention Sakura is also really good at chakra control. So I think this works out in both of their favors, and they would be trying to make progress to master the Rasengan. Naruto accidentally did it, so it's kind of easier for him than Sakura, but when Sakura is just watching Naruto do it, she just basically tries to mimic what he's doing, and now she's making similar progress. And with this, we would get to both of them being, on the verge of mastering it, and they would still be in the hotel. However, they would then hear a sudden knock at the door. As we all know, it would be the two Akatsuki members, Itachi of the Hidden Leaf and Kisame of the Hidden Mist, or I guess rogue ninjas of those villages now. And when seeing these two, Sakura quickly closes the door and tells that they are definitely not here for a friendly visit, or they are not around here. I mean, this guy literally has the same eyes as Sasuke, not to mention Sakura quickly saw Kisame, and on the back of him he has a sword, and he was ready to bring it out. With this, Sakura tries to quickly get Naruto out of there. However, Kisame would then break the door down at that point, and Naruto would then flood the room with shadow clones, having no other choice but to combat them. Now, with this, the shadow clones all proceed to make a compressed gale palm, but Kisame swiftly negs all the clones before they could even hit him. And Sakura and the real Naruto would then get ready to basically escape the hotel room by hopping out the window. With this happening, they would then proceed to try and run away. However, Naruto would turn around saying that that guy had the same eyes as Itachi. Obviously, Sakura would be trying to initiate running away, trying to get Jiraiya or some other ninja. But Naruto knows that this guy is the brother of Sasuke, the man who murdered his entire clan. Obviously, he wouldn't be saying this out loud because Sasuke personally told him, so he's not going to be spitting out Sasuke's business because that's none of Sakura's business. And this would then lead into Naruto saying that she can go and try and get help, but she needs to fight them. And Sakura is not going to be leaving her teammate alone, so she has no other choice but to come along. As they try going back to their room, they would then encounter Itachi and Kisame at the door where they are about to go into the hallway, and this would then lead into them having an encounter, with Sakura deciding to shoot a water pellet jutsu at both of them. However, they easily dodge, with Kisame even cutting the attack in half and absorbing her chakra. Kisame would acknowledge Sakura's great chakra control for a genin, and all that chakra is now his, and he appreciates it because water is his base element, so he loves absorbing that type of chakra anyway. With this, Sakura would be shocked and would understand that his sword can absorb chakra and would tell Naruto to be careful. And Naruto would basically be enraged, trying to ask Itachi questions about why he did what he did. Itachi would then say that what he did and the reasons why he did it have really nothing to do with Naruto. And Naruto would then say, well, I guess I can thank you, because if it wasn't for that, me and Sasuke would have never met each other in our adopted home. Naruto would say, because of you, Naruto managed to find his real brother, and so did Sasuke. And him and Sasuke also found the real father, Kakashi Hatake. Itachi would then acknowledge this and would say, well, too bad that their father got dropped by Itachi and Kisame. And with this, Naruto would get enraged, with Itachi saying that Kakashi might as well be dead by now, and Naruto would just be getting enraged from this. And Itachi would then say, and after this fight and I kill you, Sasuke would be next, and the entire family will go down. And these are basically the words that push Naruto over the edge, allowing him to not only awaken Kurama's chakra, but the one-tailed cloak for the very first time. And this power-up is even bigger than the one he got against Haku. Like, Naruto at this point is at his peak of power. Now, as for Sasuke, I think Sasuke would wake up in the hospital. Now, I'm going to say here that Kakashi, before, getting completely negged by Itachi, would tell Kurenai and Asuma to basically just not tell Sasuke about any of this, because he will go insane. However, Sasuke would still overhear them talking about Itachi, and he would then run over and would proceed to arrive at the hotel, where Naruto would be going apeshit against Itachi, while Kisame would be fighting Sakura. Sakura would be trying to use Genjutsu, however, Kisame is the partner of Itachi, so I think he would have some Genjutsu resistance. Especially like basic Genin Genjutsu, you know what I'm saying? So I'm just going to be saying that Kisame is just kind of overwhelming him, while Naruto would be combating Itachi, and Naruto actually putting the hands on Itachi. Itachi would get ready to use a Genjutsu, however Sasuke would intervene with the Chidori. That does tag Itachi due to him being off guard. Itachi would be wounded, and at that point Jiraiya would also arrive, because Naruto would be taking up a significant amount of time basically powering up and fighting Itachi, and then Sasuke arriving. And so with this, Sasuke never gets slammed into the wall because Itachi's actually wounded right now and doesn't have time for that and has to worry about Naruto and Sasuke. And Itachi never says how he was only here because of Naruto to Sasuke, because, he's just kind of getting slammed. However, Itachi is still holding his own comfortably and manages to get the edge against both of them. And at this point, he is getting ready to use the Tsukiyomi on Sasuke, and Kisame is just about ready to kill Sakura, until Jiraiya then arrives and forces the two out of there. Which means the entire conversation that Itachi and Sasuke have. And Sasuke in general just doesn't have a fucked mentality to the point to where he would go over to Orochimaru and train. He would still have the curse mark stage 1 and the first initial curse mark that he got in the Forest of Death, but he would never evolve it, and he would never even consider turning evil. Especially now that he has, a brother and a father. And not to mention, he just doesn't have the messed up mentality that he originally gets in canon. So he would never even, cross another path in the first place. Now, after this, Sasuke would then be taken away by my guy, as Jiraiya would then help Naruto recover. When Naruto wakes up, Sakura would reinform Naruto about what happened, and Naruto would remember and would, be upset because he didn't take out Itachi, and would basically say how Itachi basically ruined Sasuke's life, and he wants to help take him down with Sasuke. Not to mention, they both promised each other to help out with their goals, with Sasuke helping Naruto out become Hokage, and Naruto helping Sasuke take out Itachi. And they both almost did it today. Well, that's what Naruto thinks, but in reality, Itachi would have definitely washed them. Anyways, Naruto would just be upset at himself. However, they would still have a journey to get through, and Jiraiya, Sakura, and Naruto would then move forward. Not to mention, Jiraiya would tell Naruto to keep Sasuke close and to make sure he never crosses another path, because that happened with him and Orochimaru. And he would go on to explain the lore behind him, Tsunade, and Orochimaru to Naruto and Sakura. And this would then lead into them encountering Tsunade, and when Tsunade wants to fight Naruto, Naruto would actually reveal a real Rasengan. With a training partner, and not to mention Naruto already kind of accidentally making one, it's way easier than in canon to basically make a Rasengan, and Sakura would not be too far behind Naruto, so I think she would make it as well. Sakura and Naruto would both say how they desperately need a Hokage for their village, and Tsunade at first obviously is declining, but she would see something in not only Naruto but also Sakura. Sakura, she sees a little bit of herself in Sakura, and as for Naruto, she sees a little bit of her brother and the love of her life, which basically convinces her that she should help out the Leaf Village and heal their friend that they were talking about, which is Rock Lee. And so Tsunade and them, basically, we leave this arc before we even get to Orochimaru and Kabuto, so none of that even happens. And if it were to happen, Sakura and Naruto would just combo Kabuto. That's the only thing that would change. And so with this, Tsunade comes to the Leaf Village earlier, and as for the Sasuke retrieval arc, none of that even happens. The hospital fight doesn't happen. They just make sure Sasuke is okay. And as for the Sound 4 arriving, if they do encounter Sasuke, they're not only getting Sasuke, but they're also encountering Kakashi and Naruto, who would make them retreat. So they wouldn't kidnap Sasuke, and yeah, Sasuke stays in Leaf Village. And the last thing I would like to clarify is that Naruto and Sasuke would obviously have a conversation about what they had in the hotel with them fighting Itachi, and Naruto would be crying to Sasuke saying that he's sorry that he couldn't help basically push further and kill him. But Sasuke would say to Naruto that, let's face it, both of them weren't strong enough to beat Itachi, so they'll just grow from it. And as that happens, Jiraiya would then mention to Naruto that in the next 2.5 years, the Akatsuki are going to be starting to make their move, and he needs to train hard. And now with this, Naruto thinks this is perfect timing, and he thinks that he and Sasuke should train together. However, Sasuke would like to train with Kakashi, but Kakashi would then, arrive in the midst of this conversation and would say that maybe they could all go and basically grow stronger and, fight the Akatsuki together. Kakashi wants to protect his boys and doesn't want to basically be on, the back seat. He would hug his two boys and he would say that he's sorry, but he's not going to be standing in the back seat of things, and he's going to be fighting alongside his boys and dying alongside them as well. Naruto and Sasuke would then cry, and they just all have a big hugging moment, and this would then lead into Jiraiya awkwardly standing and basically saying, alright, can we go now? And so with this, Kakashi, Sasuke, Naruto, and Jiraiya go out in the forest and basically train for the next 2.5 years. Obviously, Sakura and Tsunade would be training together and they would grow, and Sakura would also learn some new stuff. Obviously, she would evolve her Genjutsu, evolve her Water Jutsu, and even combine her Water Jutsu with healing, basically making like healing rings or maybe like healing bubbles, something like that. And we could have her not only basically master her chakra control to the point to where she can control her strength, but to the point to where she can add an element to her Rasengan. And I'm going to say here that yes, Sakura is going to be having a water-style Rasengan. Naruto, Sasuke, Jiraiya, and Kakashi currently out in the forest, and this is in the middle of the 2.5-year gap. At this point, Naruto has already been, mastering his Rasengan and his wind style to the point to where he can combine the wind style and the Rasengan into a wind style Rasengan. And as for Sasuke, he's been increasing his lightning manipulation and has overall gotten control and use to the Curse Mark Stage 1. As for Kakashi, he would unlock his Mangekyo Sharingan, and in the midst of training, Sasuke and Naruto would basically push themselves to the limit, and Naruto would awaken Kurama, and Sasuke would awaken his 3-Tomo Sharingan. They would keep on fighting with Sasuke using his Curse Mark Stage 1 to overpower the one-tailed cloak Naruto, which by this point Naruto is kind of getting the hang of it because Naruto has been using a lot of Kurama lately, and not to mention he has people like Jiraiya and Kakashi who could suppress the Nine Tails, along with Sasuke who was able to do it. Though in this timeline it would be to a much lesser extent because he wouldn't be nearly as strong as his heavy Sasuke counterpart, though he is still strong in his own right and probably in the same tier as a little bit below sick Orochimaru. So he would be below 4-tailed Naruto, but he would be above 1-tailed Naruto. And Naruto during the training would go into his 2-tailed cloak, and then even his 3-tailed cloak. Sasuke would begin to get overwhelmed, and Jiraiya would try and suppress the Nine Tails, but Naruto would then begin to go berserk, and finally he would awaken the 4-tailed cloak, which would damage base Jiraiya, send Sasuke flying, and Kakashi tries to hit him with the suppression tag, but Naruto is just so much more faster than him, and he would stretch out his hand and basically send Kakashi flying. Luckily, Jiraiya would then get ready to summon Gamabunta, and Jiraiya would almost get the suppression off, but Naruto is just going crazy, and this would then force Sasuke to try and talk Naruto down, and Naruto is about to kill Sasuke, but Sasuke would finally get to him, telling him that they both need to still help each other out, and, you know, Naruto needs to help him kill his brother and avenge his clan, and Sasuke needs to help him become Hokage. Don't let this demon fox control you. Naruto currently wouldn't even be in his right state of mind, and he would be in that little void room where he's talking to Kurama and manages to actually overcome him, and Naruto snaps out of it, and he would apologize for his actions, and Sasuke and them know that he couldn't control it, but let's make sure it never escalates to that again. However, over the time skip, we see how Sasuke is able to kind of help Naruto control the Nine Tails, or at least stop him from going even further and beyond and basically going all extra, meaning Naruto can be less chaotic with Sasuke around, and it gets to the point to where Naruto doesn't even need Sasuke and can control some of Kurama's chakra to a much heavier extent. For example, he's able to at least use a 2-tailed cloak before not going too insane, but the 3rd-tailed state and onward is just too much of a risk, especially the 4 tails, because, you know, he'll just kill everyone. As for Jiraiya, he would be slightly stronger than his canon self, and Kakashi and Sasuke would also be stronger than canon Kakashi, though Sasuke would be weaker than his heavy self, probably. Now, Naruto would be stronger than his canon self, obviously, probably being in that base Sasuke and Kakashi tier. But by the end of the training and time skip, his Kurama stages would just overwhelm Sasuke and Kakashi. And Naruto and Sasuke would still increase their elements and using their main jutsu to the point to where Sasuke would discover something such as the Kirin, and Naruto would discover the Rasen Shuriken. However, he is not able to use it for too many times, and is really only a last resort option. Same with Kirin. Now, instead of Kakashi getting his Kamui to basically 2 times use before collapsing, he's going to be able to use it 3 times. Now, with this, we would get them arriving back to Konoha, with Kakashi deciding to tell them to retake the bell test, and they would reunite with Sakura, and when they fight Kakashi, we basically see Team 7's strengths. For example, we could see Naruto, Sakura, and Sasuke getting serious with Kakashi, Sasuke whipping out his Sharingan along with Kakashi, and Sakura pulling out her strength, and Naruto pulling out his Rasengan, and this would get into Kakashi then summoning 2 shadow clones, and they would all form a Raikiri jutsu. With this, Naruto, Sasuke, and Sakura would decide to clash, and with this, we would get Sakura using her Water Rasengan, which would clash initially with Kakashi's Lightning Blade. Obviously, this Lightning Blade is heavily suppressed. It's probably just like a beta Lightning Blade, like probably like a Lightning Palm, but not in the shape of a blade because he's not trying to kill them. But Sakura would basically conjure up the lightning with her water and would then explode the jutsu in Kakashi's face, defeating the clone. And as for Sasuke, he would just simply overpower it, and Naruto with his Rin Rasengan would just hard counter the actual Kakashi, allowing Sakura and Sasuke to take the bells. This time, Team 7 actually used teamwork rather than the 2 brothers only working together, and with this, we see Team 7 obviously they have shown growth, which makes Kakashi very proud. And as for the Sand Village, Deidara and Sasori would strike, obviously, like in canon. Gaara would be kidnapped and Kankuro would be poisoned. Team 7 and Team Guy would then go out, and obviously Sakura would still heal Kankuro. Chiyo would be recruited onto the mission, and they would fight the Kisame and Itachi clone. The Kisame clone fight is the same, but as for the Itachi clone fight, Sasuke would take the clone on by himself, telling the team that he doesn't really want their help. However, Naruto would convince Sasuke because in reality Sasuke and Naruto are supposed to be working together, and in general they need to go and get Gaara. This isn't time for revenge. And with this, Sasuke decides to allow this, and beforehand Sasuke was kind of getting the work in on the Itachi clone. However, he stops, allowing Naruto and Kakashi and Sakura and them to help. With this, Sakura and Naruto would combine jutsus with the Water and Rune Rasengan, which would make a Typhoon Blast shooting at the Itachi clone. The Itachi clone would dodge this, however Sasuke would then meet its eyes and having a Genjutsu battle with the clone, and actually winning the battle. And as for Kakashi, he would then throw in the last attack, clotheslining the clone as soon as he drops to the ground with Sasuke, with a lightning blade, obviously not hitting Sasuke, but hitting directly the clone, and the clone would then be defeated. And once they realize this isn't even the real Itachi, they decide to just run out and try and find the hideout. Sakura would destroy it, and Sasori and Deidara would just get done extracting the Biju from Gaara, and Gaara would be dead. Naruto, not even controlling Kurama, he just willingly lets Kurama take over, and he would go into a three-tailed cloak state, which would actually allow him to blitz Sasori and Deidara and smack Deidara across the hideout. Now, Deidara originally would just capture Gaara and would just run away, but due to Sasuke being here, he's just bloodlusted and blinded by rage, and Sasori would be stopped by Sakura and Chiyo, and this Sakura is much stronger. So Sasori and Sakura are having the same fight, and with the stronger Sakura and Chiyo backing her up, it's just going to be an easy dub. So they're basically going to hash it out, while Deidara would be facing off not only against a three-tailed Naruto, but also Sasuke and Kakashi. Kakashi would grab Gaara's body and would take it out, basically carrying it to safety, while Deidara would be focused on trying to kill Sasuke because, you know, he has a thing for, you know, murdering Itachi or whatever, so he would like to murder Itachi's brother. And Naruto would be trying to murder Deidara because he murdered his friend. With this, I think Naruto would start to overwhelm Deidara, and with Sasuke hard countering Deidara and using the curse mark stage 1 and Deidara getting jumped in the first place, not to mention being in a closed-in environment, I think it would be safe to say that Deidara kind of gets jumped before he can really pull out any big guns. So, like, no C0 is going to happen, none of that stuff. And he is considerate of his teammate, and he does respect Sasori, so he's not going to try and kill him. And I think three-tailed Naruto is going to bash Deidara's skull in and kill him before really he could do anything. And this means they're not able to get any data because Deidara is dead. And as for Sasori, he would just kill himself. So they're not going to get any information amongst the Akatsuki. So it is kind of a L. However, it is going to be a W in the end, given that Chiyo is going to sacrifice herself for Gaara, and the arc would still have that bittersweet ending. Now, with this, I think we could have maybe Sasuke and Gaara kind of closing things up, because they never really got closure, because Naruto just kind of dropped in and kind of beat Gaara. So Sasuke and Gaara can have that closure. Orochimaru would be looking for a body, but he is not training Sasuke, so therefore there is no Orochimaru hideout arc. And as for the Kakuzu arc, I'm going to be saying Asuma and Shikamaru would like to recruit 2 other members on the team. These 2 ninja have the same kind of elemental techniques, and, you know, one has trained the other. Not to mention, they have heard that one of the Akatsuki members that they're hunting is a Earth style user, so they could be useful, and these 2 members are Sasuke Uchiha and Kakashi Hatake. With this, Naruto would just be training with Sakura in the fields or whatever, and Kakashi and Sasuke would be going out and carrying out this mission. This time, Kakashi and Sasuke would come along due to him actually having Earth Jutsu, and Sasuke and Kakashi might be useful given the fact that not only do they have the Sharingan, their main elements are lightning, so they hard counter Kakuzu. Now, when Kakashi and Sasuke and them encounter with Kakuzu and Hidan, they would ambush them, but they would recover, and this would lead into Asuma and Shikamaru deciding to take on Hidan, while the other 2 and Sasuke and Kakashi take out Kakuzu. Now, Kakuzu is handling Sasuke and Kakashi comfortably, and the other Chunin aren't really a factor in this battle because they kind of just get negged, and this would lead into Sasuke and Kakashi deciding to carry it, which leads into the two of them actually comboing with each other and Sasuke tapping into the power of the Curse Mark Stage 1, which would then start to actually press Kakuzu, and Kakuzu is then forced to use his full power right away. And while this is happening, because Kakazu can't really intervene, this means Hidan actually gets decapitated, and Asuma and Shikamaru are now helping out against Kakazu. And when Kakazu transforms, obviously, and shoots that big-ass blast, Kakashi would react and use Kamui and save everybody. And as for Naruto, guys, Naruto is just kind of chilling and training with Sakura, and they really don't know what kind of mission they went out on, so they're just kind of chilling right now. Anyways, this would then lead into Kakashi telling them to get away, and he'll basically stall for time, but Sasuke is not letting that happen, nor is Shikamaru or Asuma. Asuma would then ignite a chakra blade, Shikamaru getting ready to use a shadow paralysis, and Sasuke deciding to basically, form a Chidori, indicating that they are not leaving Kakashi's side and they are fighting together. This would then lead into them facing off against Kakuzu, and it would be a hard-fought battle, though I do think Kakashi, with his Kamui especially, would be the key to defeating him. Reason why he would be the key is because he can negate durability, and in general he's already relative to Kakuzu in speed, and considering the fact that Sasuke can back him up and hard counter him with lightning and maybe use Kirin, and with Asuma and Shikamaru being perfect distractions, honestly, Kakashi has an easy way out to beat Kakuzu. With this, everyone on the team, except maybe the two random Chunin, come back alive, and this means Asuma's death never happens, Shikamaru versus Hidan in the rematch never happens, all that growth that Team 10 goes through never happens, and really, that entire arc just never happens, really. Naruto already has a Rasen Shuriken, not a special moment, and all that stuff is just cut out. So the arc ends short, but it is happy due to the fact that Asuma is alive. Now, for me personally, this is where the story starts to kind of speed up in pace, because the Itachi and Sasuke arc never really happens due to them never encountering, and Itachi is at the point to where he is basically really sick, so his last mission is to go out with Kisame to go and get the 8 tails, while Pain personally would go get the 9 tails, and Jiraiya would go and visit Pain beforehand, and obviously die, and Naruto would go out and learn Sage Mode. Now, with this happening, this means Sasuke never gets the MS, never learns the truth, and really just kind of stays good for the rest of the story for now. And Itachi, he just goes out with Kisame to get the 8 tails, which, by the way, I'm just going to say that they managed to get it, though it does cost Itachi a lot of his chakra, and he's just about to die right now. His last dying wish to Kisame is to basically just tell him to finish it off and end his misery. Kisame said how it's been a fun ride and he's glad that he had a partner like him. He would then finish him off, and Kisame would basically report to Obito that Itachi died in the battle against Killer Bee, which is a shame, though they managed to get the 8 tails anyway, which is a good thing. Now, I'm actually going to get into the Pain Assault stuff, which really not too much changes, guys. The only thing that really changes is Sasuke fighting alongside Kakashi, fighting off against the Asura and Diva Path, and maybe the Asura and Diva Path actually taking some noticeable damage given the fact that Sasuke an extra person's there. Though I don't know, given the fact that they do have the Naraka Path, which could basically just instantly heal them. Though if you want to say that Sasuke and Kakashi are going to be hella stingy about it, then I will say that the Asura Path gets capped. The fight with the Paths of Pain actually is a lot longer given the fact that Sasuke is there, so when Kakashi is seemingly about to die, Naruto would arrive and we would see a sudden kunai intercepting between the Nail and Kakashi. Naruto is enraged at Pain for what he did alongside almost killing his father and harming his brother significantly, not to mention harming his home. So now Naruto is going to be showing no mercy. And before fighting off against Pain, Sasuke would tell his brother good luck and they would both fist bump each other, promising each other to both make it out alive. Obviously Sasuke is not really doing anything difficult, he's just kind of saving everyone, and Naruto is literally fighting the main boss, which I'm just going to say the fight goes exactly the same as in canon. Since the only thing that would necessarily change is maybe Naruto being able to resist Kurama at first, though when Hinata gets capped, I think that it's just gonna go kind of crazy from there on out. Naruto would still meet Minato, and he would still slam Pain with that very Rasengan, and also revive anyone that had been killed in the Pain Assault. Now, due to Tsunade not being in a coma, this means that she would be around for the Kage Summit, and the Kage Summit would still happen, given the fact that the Raikage would be mad at not only the Leaf, but also the Mist, because of what they did to Killer Bee. Obito then comes in, and I'll say that Tsunade's guards for this timeline are Sakura and Kakashi, and Naruto and Sasuke decide to stay back at the village and basically just guard up in case if anyone wants to try and come in while they're down. And with this, Obito would then declare the Fourth Great Ninja War, and there would be no reanimated army given the fact that Orochimaru would never be absorbed by Kabuto because he would still be around and Kabuto would still be Orochimaru's bitch, basically trying to help him get a new body. This means there's no reanimated army or Guru statue, none of that even happens, and Obito doesn't even encounter Kabuto. This means the only enemies for this arc are the Akatsuki and White Zetsu, which shouldn't be too much of a problem given the fact that the 5 nations are now combining their efforts, and they would bop the White Zetsus who aren't even amped, and eventually Naruto would decide to go out to the war, and I'm going to say Sasuke is the one kind of watching him, but Sasuke would want to, fight alongside his brother, and this would then lead into his encounter with the Raikage. And I think this battle is where Naruto is talking to Kurama and basically begging him to give him chakra. And I'm going to say here that Kurama just gives him enough to basically give him KCM 1. He enters this state with connecting with Kurama when he's fighting the Raikage and seemingly about to die from his punch, but he would then dodge with his new KCM form, and Sasuke is surprised and the Raikage is surprised, and also is Tsunade. Sasuke is a little weird about this because now at this point Naruto is far more powerful than him, but it's fine, and Naruto and Sasuke fighting alongside each other would then head out into the battlefield and encounter Obito, alongside with Kisame, where Sasuke would then face off against Kisame, and Kisame would tell the truth to Sasuke about Itachi and what happened to him. And basically, due to Sasuke not being able to get his revenge now, he uses this tragic fact in his eyes to basically fuel the rage and unlock him a new power-up. That's right, the Mangekyo Sharingan, and he would then proceed to spam Amaterasu, catching Kisame and Obito off guard, tagging both of them and allowing Naruto to basically tag Obito immediately after phasing because he would phase off the Amaterasu, but as that happens, Naruto clotheslines him, and Naruto would then break his mask. At this point, Kakashi comes in and slams Obito while Might Guy would slam Kisame to the ground, and both are now down, and Kakashi is shocked at the fact that this is Obito. Now, after this, I can see Naruto awakening KCM2, and if that's the case, then it's kind of just GG for Obito, because Kakashi now can figure out that they're connected to the same space, and it's just GG. Yeah, no Jubito, none of that. Kisame would also die. And the ninja world would inevitably be brought to peace with Naruto becoming Hokage, and Sasuke deciding to actually become Naruto's Hokage aide. None of that Kaguya stuff would happen, so yeah, Sasuke actually has time for this. And Kakashi would be Naruto's best man at the wedding. And after this would basically conclude Shippuden, and fuck Boruto. So be sure to subscribe if you are new, hit the notification bell, that way you are notified update every time I upload. The majority of my viewers aren't even subscribed anyway, so be sure to subscribe. Follow me on Twitter, like the video, blah blah blah, and I'll catch y'all in the next video. Peace out guys, have a nice rest of the day.